correction. And everybody goes, well, it's the same stuff. Not per se. Correction is to make something right or put it on the right path or changing mistakes. So when you're in flight, you don't discipline the airplane, you make course corrections. Does that make sense? You're not going to go fix the airplane, right? You're going to course correct. And that's the way it is, the difference between correction and discipline. And what's the difference between childishness and foolishness?
I have childishness is an accident, like if you accidentally spill something or knock something over. Foolishness is rebellion or doing something they know is wrong. Sneaky or bad attitude, rolling the eyes, things like that.
And I bet no one had any sneakiness or anything with Halloween candy this past week, right? I dare you to check. But anyway, all right. And just as a reminder, I don't want us to dwell on it, but there's a list of rebellious behaviors. Can you name any one of them? There's, real quickly, just disobeying, talking back, not willing to take correction, willful defiance, fits, tantrums, pouting, whining, eye rolling, et cetera, not listening, and on, right? Now, the 6 things in your foolish filter. Now, we on the chart, you had the foolish filter you had to go through. You have to take into account, 1, their age, 2, the frequency of the behavior, 3, the context of the situation, number 4, the overall character of the child, and then number 5, correction that fits the crime, right? You're not going to send them to Siberia for a minor offense. And then the correction or discipline needs to be done in a reasonable amount of time.
I'd like to add one thing on that. And part of that reasonable correction and time, I just wanted to say we want to make sure that we're keeping people more important than things. You shouldn't punish or discipline for breaking something you love more than harming another human being. Or we need to make sure we're keeping people are more important than things.
People are more important than things, absolutely. All right, so that's all the questions for chapters 10 and chapter 11. Tonight we will be talking about no pain, no gain. Excellent video. And then we'll come back and wrap up. And that should be it. Technical guy, good.
All right, here we are on chapter 12, and we're going to be bringing the pain today. You know, in my own life, I can remember every spanking I've ever got. Isn't that crazy to remember? And they weren't good at the time, but they're great memories today because every moment is a memory of a direction that was changed in my life. It was a moment of it's funny when you got all this junk inside you as a kid and you're mad at this and you're mad at the world, and there was a release that happened and there was a direction change and life got better from that moment going forward. Not that we're going to focus today on the spanking. That's the smallest portion of it. But we're going to be focused on bringing pain into our kids' life. And pain can come in many different ways, from removing something and taking things away. There's a lot of different ways that pain can be added into our kids' life. But once again, our goal is just to change direction. Every kid's different. How you handle each kid is going to be different as you go through the foolish filter. Remember, there's so many great ways to change direction without having to get here. But there are times, especially in the younger years, where this is where I need to get. And what you find out with pain is it's a funnel. And when you first start, there's a lot. There's a lot of pain that I have to bring when I first begin, especially if you got like 7-year-old, 8-year-old right now, and they've got so many bad habits. You give them the time to get those bad habits, but now pain is probably going to be the way that I'm going to remove those bad habits in their life. But as I bring the pain, and if you start at zero, when I say it's zero, but really when we talked about there in the chapter, about 9, 12 months, and you begin to bring a little bit of pain here, little things here, then the funnel begins to get down here, and we were talking about this in an earlier chapter. I don't spank. I can't remember 8, 9, I don't even know how long ago it's been since I have given. Baylor was my last spanking, and that must have been 5 years ago. I don't even know. And it was just a real quick one. It wasn't even a full spanking in his life, and before that, I don't know. And so it's a funnel. If I'm consistent in the parenting program, it's almost non-existent in your life. And I think that the older kids sit down, the younger kids at some point go, hey, here's how spankings work. You don't want these. And so you're going to want to have to be, hey, you're right, these are the things that you're going to do. Because like I said, with Peyton and with Savvy, kind of non-existence.
Well, and even when you're talking about 9-month-old and 12-month-old, pain is not necessarily, pain is removal.
Yes.
Pain is like taking them from one point to another. How many of you know they feel pain? They're mad. They're mad at you because you've removed them from that thing that they keep wanting to touch. So I just wanted to.
Yep, and we go into great detail, especially with the younger age, exact ages to begin to end, and the type of pain that you can add to each of the ages, because it's very, very important that you're going through this, because we're just giving you a broad spectrum now, and that the pain is age appropriate for the age that they're at. All right, here we go. F1 is pain, and we know that pain is good. God has given us pain in a sense. If you touch a fire, how many people know that it hurts? Right? If touching a fire didn't hurt and it gave you a super cool sensation, like maybe some people think that drugs do, people would be touching that fire and hitting that fire and burning their skin all the time. And so pain helps us from doing something that is dumb and something that's going to hurt ourselves. And so pain is something that helps us stay away from something in life. There are 2 types of pain out there. There is F2, right in natural pain. Very important that we understand that sometimes life gives our kids pain. And when life gives them pain, I don't have to add any pain to it. So let's say I tell my kids, hey, Peyton, don't run around the pool, right? And minutes later, here he goes. He's running around the pool. It's just foolishness. I literally just told you. But before I can even say something, he slips, he falls, he skins himself all up. I don't walk over to Peyton while he's crying and put him over my knee and give him some discipline. He's already got his discipline. Yeah. All I need to do is remind him that when Dad asks you to do something, there's a reason behind it. I wasn't trying to take away your fun, Peyton. As I'm comforting him, I'm like, but there's a reason why Dad told you not to run, because I know more than you do. And I know that if you run, there's a chance you get hurt. I don't like you to get hurt. I don't like you to be skinned up. I want you to enjoy your time. And so remember, son, that when I ask you to do something, it's for your benefit. And see, as they hear these things, and those natural consequences are better than any consequences, it transitions them in the teenage years. When I say, don't do drugs, in their mind, Dad said, don't run around the pool. There was consequences then. Okay, so Dad knows more than I know. And so rather than me knowing more than him as a kid who's never gotten consequences or reminded of their consequences, it helps steer them in the right direction. All right, so those are natural consequences. F3 is structural consequences. F3 is going to be your structural consequences. Now we'll go to F4, which is these are the different types of structural consequences in their life. It's logical. It's just logical. It hurts. You have to remember that consequences in life or pain in life have to be greater than the reward. Remember this. If it's not working, it's because the reward is greater than the consequence. So I have to make the consequence not worth the reward, right? If you could steal a car and all you would get is a verbal warning from the cops, and people would be stealing cars. Because what's the big deal? I just got a warning. I got to keep the car. There's no big deal. Yet a kid, he does something. He comes home. He's supposed to be home at, let's say you have a teenager supposed to be home at 10, and they get home at 11:30, and all it was Dad and Mom just yelling at them for the next hour and just hollering at them and blah, 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 and just mad and angry. That might have been worth it. The hour and a half out just so that I could just zone out and listen and have you yell at me. No big deal. And so you find out your kid just never seems to come home on time, doesn't seem to do it. Why is that? Because the consequence isn't worth the reward. And so the kid is able to mouth off to mom and not do their chores. And once again, it's just a yelling again. And oftentimes this seems to be a lot of parents' things, is just to yell at a kid or give them a consequence is really not that big a deal. And so we have to make sure that we're always tweaking things, because if I give you a consequence and it does not change direction, then I need to change the consequence. I have to find a child's kryptonite.
And don't forget that every kid is different also. Scott talks about these spanking memories, and for me, it was just hurting the heart of my parent. Like, I was very much that kid. I wanted to just please everybody. And so for me, it was just the knowledge that something had gone wrong and that I had done something that was not okay. And that was just so overwhelming for me. It was absolutely enough to change direction. So every kid is going to be different, and you're going to know what that kryptonite or what that action is that's going to be effective for every one of your kids' personalities. You're going to know that.
You go through the logic of it. They're supposed to be home at 10. They got home, and also once it goes through the foolish filter, they get home at 10:05. That might be a warning. If it happens the second time, they're home at 10:05. Hey, son, a logic consequence. You can't handle being home at 11 or at 10 o'clock. So this is very simple. Now you're going to be home at 9 o'clock next week. If you're home at 9, then we're going to take it back up to 10. If you're not home at 9, then it's going to go back down to 8. And we're going to get to our place where you don't get to go out at all. And guess what? They'll be home at 8:50, because that's what I tell my kids also. If you're home at 9, you're already late. So what you need to do is on time is to be 10 or 15 minutes early. Once again, I'm training them today for success in the future. Your job and being there 10 minutes early, 15 minutes. This is what I want your habit to be. And so it's important to me that, yes, it's only 5 minutes. It's only 10 minutes. Now, God forbid they're supposed to be home at 10 and they get home at 11:30. Then he's a whole different. You can't handle. You're an hour and a half late. I didn't get a call to get anything. So you can't handle being out. You're not old enough to handle that responsibility. So we're going to try a month. There's not going to be any going out. I guess you're going to be home. And after a month, we're going to give this whole thing another try. We're going to try 10 o'clock and see if you can be home early. There you go. And so I give them a logical amount of pain or consequence in their life. And so a kid's on the phone, and they're not supposed to be on the phone after bedtime, and you catch them. Logical consequence, got to bring a little pain in your life. I guess we lose our phone for 3 days. Well, I need it at school. No, I didn't have it going to school. You know what I'm saying? I was able to figure out life without a phone, and so I guess you're going to figure it out. Oh my gosh, how am I going to figure it out? See, the level of pain. And guess what? That 3 days of no phone and that level of pain, they won't be on their phone again, because they don't want to go through the pain. So the pain is what deters them, the consequences. Remember, you just want to find their kryptonite. We had some parents train up parents, and their kid they just couldn't get them to get the grades in school and to work at school. And it was so imaginative. This girl loved her fashion clothes.
Yes.
She loved it. She had
awesome.
all of her money she saved up was all about fashion clothes. And so what they did, they said, well, in order to have fashion clothes in life, you have to be successful. And so guess what? You're going to be wearing Kmart stuff for the next month until your grades are up. They took all her clothes away. They went and bought her some stuff at Kmart. She had all the Kmart stuff, right? All the clothes.
Well,
and this is your new wardrobe.
And it wasn't so much that it was Kmart. It was more the fact that they just went with nondescript. It was very just like, just jeans that fit and a t-shirt or they got very creative with this young lady.
How many people know
awesome.
her grades came up very fast?
So awesome.
She was studying like there is to know. So once again, you can be creative. We just have to bring pain into their life that's going to change direction. And so most of the time, it's not going to be a spanking. Most of the time, it's just finding that kryptonite or that way in which I can change that young child's, that teenage child's direction in life. F5 is going to be isolation. And this is a rare one. We are not timeout people. I don't believe in timeout. I don't believe in, all right, go to your room and sit in a corner for a half an hour. How many people, I remember having to go to my room and sit on my bed, and as a parent, you're like, you think about all the things you've done wrong. Did you ever think about that? All I thought about is how much I hated my life and my parents and how dumb this was. That's all I thought about while I was there. Nothing good ever came out of that moment. And so for the most part, we're not timeout type parents.
We did have one child that it's that same child, coincidentally, that liked to be by himself. But if it was a parent-induced be by himself, he couldn't stand it. And Heath, and there was those moments where if we knew we were going to be doing something really, really fun for families, he could not stand not being in the know of what the family was doing. So it was it was rare, and it was one child, and it was like I said, it was rare, and it wasn't for very long. But he couldn't stand to not be in the group environment, and it worked on the several occasions we had to use it.
This is I think for those of you that have 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, this is the key. This is one of I think Holly actually invented, I don't know if she invented it, but it is a life changer. When a kid, hey, can I have a cookie? No. And they begin to throw their little fit and their tantrum, which you have to realize the level of the tantrum. Mm-hmm. If the level of the tantrum is throwing yourself on the floor, then I deal with that way differently than a kid that starts to cry because they can't have a cookie. So your emotions, having emotions, I get it. You have emotions, and things don't always go our way. But I don't have to be part of your emotions. You need to learn to control them. And so Holly and I would go, oh, Savvy, you need to go sit on your bed, right? And when you're done, you can come back out. Now, look at this. The isolation is up to her. She can sit on her bed as long as she wants to be mad and upset, but she learns that she can control her emotions, and when she gets them out of control, she can come back out. Now, that doesn't mean that she gets to kick and scream all the way down the hall. That always happens just one time. And then we go to a different level because all I have to say then after the first time I deal with it is you go quietly. And then they bring it down a level because you don't get to escalate. You can have your emotions, but you don't get to escalate it into a fit thing. Parent at home for what I want in the store, so you bring it down a level. Off they go off to their bed, and it is crazy. You find out that it happens. It happens so fast that all of a sudden you're like, all right, go to your bed, sit on your bed until you're happy, and they'll take 5 steps and they'll turn around and go, I'm happy, Daddy, I'm happy, and you're like, yes, you are. And it works so great, and so it helps them to get out of that emotions. It is a game changer to me. It is a game changer. The other thing is you got that kid that wants, I want a drink of water. And you're like, where did that come? My God, you could have asked. All you had to do is say, can I please have a drink of water? And you would have got a drink of water. But you were like, I'm so thirsty. Anyway, I hate the whiny. I want the blue cup. I want juice. Oh my God, I want you to shut up. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think we're so unique in that I can take the crazy like boy thing. I can take the pounding on the walls. Just take it outside. I just roll them outside. I'm like, go bang on outside. You and I both, that whiny and addressing me in that like annoying whine, complainy voice. We were a house that was like
hungry.
I can't. It just grates on you, and I just start talking the same way back to them. That's what I would do. I just started. And then I would say, obviously, okay, I'm not even going to answer your request until you can ask me like a human being or like a 5-year-old. Like, why are you talking like a 10-month-old?
And she would put a timer on.
Oh, I would.
So then this is the great thing because it brings pain. I want a drink. Oh, sorry. I'm going to put a timer on. When this bings off, come back and see if you can ask correctly. Mm-hmm. That's all you have to do. It didn't have to be a big old issue or anything else. And off they go. The timer comes back in. And if they don't, then of course now we're in rebellion. But if they come back in and 100% of the time, they're like, can I please have a drink of water? Yes, you may. See how much easier that was? You got right? And so you're slowly training your kids, and you'll be surprised at how quickly you get rid of the whining and that annoying stuff that we as parents don't want. And it's embarrassing when you get out in public because we forget we parent at home for what we want to have in public. And now in public, they're like, ah, and you're like, oh my gosh. Right? And you're like, I don't know what's going on. And because you don't see it so much at home because you got used to it, but when you get in public, you begin to notice it. And so at home. And
your kids will too. Your kids will start to notice it in public, and they'll start to say, listen to that little girl, Mom, or listen to that little person that's not behaving for their mom. That's actually a really joyous occasion when your kid gets to that point. Obviously, you don't want them to say it very loud, but.
Right?
Yeah.
Or when you're talking to an adult and they come up, they're like, Mom, 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 Mom. Right? And so then what most parents do is go, you're annoyed. You're like, what do you want? So now you look like the crazy parent, right? And then and the child's like, and so then you're like, oh my gosh, stop bugging me. What do you want? Go. Okay, yes, I'll get you that, right? And so now remember the pain. was worth the consequence. There really was no consequence other than you were annoyed. And so then you wonder why they continue to come up and bug you and bug you and bug you, because there was no pain to it. And so Holly we have what's called the interrupt rule. And so the only way you talk to me when I'm talking to big people or doing anything or on the phone, you ever been on the phone and you got to get mom, 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 oh my, and you just hear, it's like ring it. It's like, what's going on? Am I in hell? Right? It's called the interrupt rule. It's a life changer. We didn't talk about it earlier. It was actually in our notes. But the interrupt rule is very simple. And you start your kids when they're 2 years old.
Yep.
All you do when I'm doing something is a kid comes and puts their little hand on your side right here. And then what you do is you put your hand on their hand to tell them, I know that you have a request. When I get a moment in my conversation, and I go, oh, hold on a second. But now when they're first starting out, you got to go quick because they don't have a lot of patience. They just, right? And so you're like, oh, hold on a second. And you go, yes, sweetie, what did you need? And see, what I did is I'm teaching my kids that other people are important, that the world doesn't revolve around me, that I don't just get to interrupt. Now, if they don't, they're like, mom, 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 you just go, oh, hold on a second. Oh, remember the interrupt rule. And so now I need you to go over into the room. I need you to think about what you're supposed to do, and then come back and do it the correct way. And then they put their little hand here. Now, when you first start out, I know that it's weird. I know that I did that too, where we started teaching the kids when we first started beginning, and the kids are like, what are you doing? Why is your hand on me? I don't know what they're like, it's the interrupt rule. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right, honey. I'm sorry. Do it again. Let me do it. Why are you touching me?
It's in our chapter about child-centered parenting, and you know, a lot of us have friends in our lives that their kids are the end-all, be-all, and you'll be in the middle of a conversation, and you're interrupted, or you could be in the middle of responding to something, and you're interrupted 9 times by this person and their child, because that child is just tantamount to anything else. And so it's important that we teach our children that they're a welcome part of our world. You know, this right here, this relationship, I existed before they existed, Scott existed before they existed, and they need to learn that, you know, they're a welcome addition to what we now call a family, and that, you know, just because they have a need, it's not the end-all, be-all need, and they don't get to just interrupt for any reason. Obviously, if they're like dying or something, then that's important to know.
Fire!
Then go ahead and tug on me. But I don't like to be tugged on, and I don't like to be.
No, you don't get. It's not tuggy. It's just you simply. And this takes training, but once again, it makes your life easier when you take the time to train them young, and they put over. And you find yourself as you've been doing it enough, like you're in your 3rd kid, and Holly be doing something, I'm all. And she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my God, I forgot. I'm just trying to get your attention. It's the interrupt rule, right? And but it is a game changer. And other people that you're around, remember, you're so proud when another guy goes, oh my God, that was amazing. What was that? Mm-hmm. It's called the interrupt rule. Really? And they do that? Because my kids are like, rah, 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 right? Because once again, then the parent goes, what do you want? And the only consequence was a quick yell, yet I still got my needs met right away, and the consequence did not deter me from doing it over and over and over again. So most of the time, just bringing some pain of having them go in the other room and try it again. Oh, you asked. Oh, go try it again. You didn't ask in the right way. So when the timer goes off, when you can go to your room, sit on your bed, and when you're happy, you can come out. And so off they go. And once again, you're raising happy kids. You get to 9 years old, and it's so easier. They get to 7 years old, 6 years old. You find out how easy it is when your kids can control their emotions. They can get them under control. They start to get a little sad, a little upset. Savvy right now. Last night she wanted to play with Logan, her little headset thing. It wasn't working. It wasn't broken. She was just like, I'm like, honey, it's not the end of the world. There's bigger problems in life than your headset. Hey, we'll fix it. We'll take care of it. But I need you to be in control. You can't think when you're all emotional over a headset, right? And so she's like, you're right, Dad. You're right. Okay, right? And she did that this morning, too.
Well, what was really powerful is this morning she was having another game-related issue with Logan, and she couldn't find a disc, and she was very frustrated, and she was all in her, she was hot. And she's like, I want you to tell Dad that, and she's just going on, and she's like close to just having a full-blown, weepy, and I had to calm her down. I'm like, okay, first of all, just take a deep breath, get your emotions in check. Your dad went out special last night. I don't even know what time it was. It was after
10 o'clock, after this whole thing.
Yeah, it was really late. And I said, okay, your dad went out specially last night and got you something that goes for another issue that you had. So just hold on a second. And immediately she was like, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. I'll just play that game. I don't even need this. Please don't say anything to him. You're so right. She's like, please don't tell him I was really mad right now. Please just don't say anything because you're absolutely right. And so, it warms your heart as a parent to go, oh my gosh, just the simple reminder that she has the ability inside to capture her emotions and to control herself in this moment. And it's important to validate it. I would be annoyed too, what she was dealing with. It is annoying. I said, so annoying. I get it. Yes, you're number 5 out of all the others above you, and it's really frustrating that you take care of your stuff and they don't, or whatever it was that she was complaining about. Yeah,
and the boys lose the game, and they're all over. I can never find the game. They don't put anything where it goes.
They're not organized, and So but it does. As a parent, you go, okay, oh, this is so awesome. Even though she's in the midst of a moment that's not ideal, and she does have the power to change it. She's 9 and she's working on it, and every opportunity is an opportunity to remind her that she does have it inside of her to make this okay in and of her in that moment. And so it was really awesome. And then it's just so much, it just makes you feel so good when the reminder of what Dad did do last night that was so amazing and so helpful, and she immediately, it snapped her right out. You're absolutely right. And then to the point where she doesn't want to hurt the heart of her dad. She's like, please don't say anything. And here I am telling everybody, but
she's like, hey, wait.
I know. So don't say anything to her.
You told everybody. All right.
Yeah.
F6 is the spanking. It works. Now you're going to read through the chapter. Obviously, if you're a step parent, you get foster care. You have to, of course, abide within. You're going to have to use different ways. But to us, for me in my life growing up, it changed directions. The funnel we talked about, you do it at a young age, it becomes very small, very few in between ever, if you even need to. If you handle it and you're doing the other things, when I say a last resort, we went through our mind. There's nothing else that can change a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old, well, I took his phone away. Who cares, right? You know what I'm saying? When you're dealing with a 3-year-old, and you're dealing with a 3.5-year-old, certain takeaways and things aren't changing directions. And sometimes, like I said, Savvy, go sit on your bed till you're done, and the first time it's just this. And I get a scream, and I don't do tantrums. I don't do that. I won't. You can go to your room and you can cry, but when you've escalated it to put me in this moment, well, then now I have to bring a different level of pain at your age that is going to let you know that the pain is worse than the reward of throwing the fit and the tantrum. And so we go into great detail of this within the chapter. So it's very important that you read this, get it in your heart. We're going to cover here in our last few moments of how to do it, but it is a vital part of parenting. And it's different at different ages. Obviously, a 3.5-year-old, it's just a little boop. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes just a little boop is all that it takes to change the direction in a child, just to bring a little bit of pain to them, and that can change the direction very quickly. And they realize at a young age that Dad and Mom are going to bring the pain, and then when they get 7, 8, 9 years old, it's just the idea that the spanking is available that would change. I think I don't know what she did something last week. I forget it all though, but she did something. If it comes up again, I'll remember it. And I'm like, Savvy, you realize that if this happens again, It's probably going to be your first spanking. I don't think you've ever had one since you were 3 years old. And so this will be your number one. If it happens again, she's like, yes, Dad, it will never happen again. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure you know, I'm giving her the warning. I don't want to get to this place, but just the warning of the spanking I believe, has wiped it out for all of eternity in her life. And so when it happens young, it is something that doesn't need to happen anymore when they're getting older. Now, if you have an 8-year-old, it might happen. It might be Spankapalooza for a week until they realize it might have to be. Because you have to win. And if I can't change the direction any other way with a 7-year-old, then this is what's going to have to be done. Spanking done right is a very powerful tool. Done wrong can be a very detrimental tool. And so it's very important that you go through the chapter and you really get it in on how to do it right. Because there's a process. One, we don't spank in front of people. That's embarrassing. Nobody wants to get that. It's not something that you do in front of a group. Maybe they're 2.5 and nobody's looking, in the house, and you go, boop, right? It's just a little boop. But I'm talking about a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old. It's a process. Hey, And remember, we don't parent great when we're angry. You don't. You can't think clearly. And so you have to have that moment. You don't even know what you're going to do. I haven't even gone through the foolish filter. I just know that I'm angry. And the best thing to do is go sit on your bed. I will be in there in a minute. And they'll already know, if you've been doing Train Up a Parent for any amount of time, they already probably have gone through everything in their mind. They already know what's going to come in the mind. Mm-hmm. And now I can process it and go, okay, can I change the direction? No, this is a biggie, right? This is something that I'm going to have to deal with in this manner, and this is probably the only way that's going to change their direction. Take a moment. Get your head on. I walk in. I do the same way that my dad did it. I walk into the room. They're sitting on the bed. Now, if they run from me or they're kicking and screaming and stuff, then I have to let them know. Here's how this is going to work, guys. I'm calm. You're going to get a spanking for the tantrum you're doing. And then when that's done, we're going to come back and we're going to get a spanking for the other thing. So yeah, you got 2. I don't know if you want to go for 3. I don't know how you want to do this process today. You can stop the spankings at any moment. But you dictate how far this is going to go, because Dad's going to have to win. I've never had to do that because we started at such a young age. I've never had to do some of the problems that parents do where the kid runs off. My God, I've never ran from my dad. I swear to God, you'd never run from me. It won't come into their mind. And so you got to get to the place where it doesn't even come into their mind. Walk into the room, sit next to the bed. They already know. They'll cry. And I say, hey, you did this. Mom told you not to do this, and right in front of her, you still did that. Right? Come on, son. You can't do that. And I go through the process. I try and give them the whys in this moment. I'm very calm about it. And I'm like, all right, stand up. And they get up in front of me. And then you never shake a child. Never shake it. You just grab them. Just get them where they know dad's meat hooks are on you. I got you. And they're ooh, Daddy got you, right? Daddy's got a little strength in the hands. It's just enough, right? I'm not going to shake you, but I'm going to let you know, and I'm going to bring you close, and I'm going to get you right here. And I don't scream. I don't holler. It's just scary voice. You will never do it. And they do that. They actually imitate me. Lincoln was doing that. You'll never do that again.
Yeah,
do you understand me? Will you ever do it? They're like, no, I'll never do that again. You will not. When Mom says to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. You are dang right. You're going to do it. And then I just put him over my little knee. And then now every kid is different. You have to realize that every kid is different. Lincoln, you could go beep, and he's like, bah! He's screaming, he's crying, he's bored. He don't need much on his booty. He just needs, remember, I just want to change direction. Heath, I remember his very first spanking, real spanking that I gave him. I went down, and I went, boop, boop, and I thought he was like Lincoln. So I gave him a little thing, and I put him down, and he's like, yeah, whatever. All right? You know what I'm saying?
He's the man of steel.
Like, yeah, Dad. That's all you got? You want to flip me off? You know what I'm saying? And then I walked out of the room, and I told Holly, I'm like, I screwed that one up. I'm like, I messed that up. It was no good. He's going to need another one real quick. And sure enough, the next day, we had to get another one. And this time, I was emotionally prepared. I'm like, here we go. Daddy's going to bring the pain till you break. And so it's going to be a whole different level of pain for Heath with his little steel buns. And I brought it, and then it was about 3, and then all of a sudden, he went, wah! And he broke and put him down, and because it's the break. When the cry, and you can sense it in the spirit and the motion, there's a break that happens, and I put him down, and I do the same thing. You will never do that again. And I put him down on the bed, and then I walk out of the room, close the door. Now, this is very time sensitive. Every kid's a little bit different. For Lakin, I would walk out of the door, but I better come right back in because the boy's going to stop breathing. He's just, he can't get no air. And I'm like, breathe, son, breathe, get some air in you. Come on, son, come on, get there. Don't go see it. Don't go to the light. And so I got to get him right away. I got to get him hold, because the important part of the spanking is, the most important part is the restitution, is the restoration of the relationship. I said restitution. It's the restoration of the relationship. Yeah. And so, boom, we went through it, and I bring him in real quickly, and I'm hugging him, and I said, I love you, son. You are incredible. It's just this one little area, and we're not going to do it again, and you're a great son in so many different ways. Let's just not do this, all right? And so I'm hugging him and holding him, and he's crying, and you can tell that they're a little mad at the moment, but then once again, there's a break that happens. And the break happens, and they hug you back, and then it's over. And it has to be over. Mm-hmm. We don't bring it up anymore. She comes out, gives Mom, I'm sorry, Mom. She's like, hey, love you. And everything is all new. And there is a refreshing, there's almost like a built-up. I remember that Lakin, he was probably about 7, 8 years old, and he mouthed off to me, and he never did that. And so, but he probably still needed one. But, you know, he'd been mouthing probably for the last couple of days. Let me say it that way. A couple of days, and so I sent him to his room, and I remember that I came in, and I was going to get, by the time I got there, I'm like, no, I think he'll be fine. And so, and when I walked in, though, he was praying. I overheard him pray, God, don't let Dad spank me, right? And so when I walked in, I wasn't going to spank him. It's not a stupid miracle. He thinks, right? And I was like, son, I was like, hey, and I talked to him, and you could tell he's all happy. And so, right? And then literally, it must have been an hour later, here's little mouthy kid again with me, right? And so I'm like, get in your room, right? Here we go. And so I could tell, and this time I walk in, he's a little cocky with me. He's like, hey, I already prayed, right? Guess what, son? Every miracle isn't answered. And when we got down with the spanking and the process, he was so different. He was angry before. He was disrespectful. There was something in him that was building. And the spanking was a cleansing. And man, I never dealt with that ever again in his life. And so done in the right manner. It has to be. And it's done with the hand. I know people are like, well, the hand is meant to love. Yeah, and this is love. Discipline is love.
Yeah.
And so don't get into weird philosophies and stuff out there, because you can't feel the level of pain when you use it. And to me, it's abuse. You're using a stick or a brush or something else, and just use the hand. The hand, I can feel how much pain I'm getting. I got more control over the pain. And a kid doesn't go, wait a second, my dad spanked me with the hand, means he doesn't love me because the hand gives. No, don't be stupid. My dad did it to me. I did it to my kids. We never spanked bare bottom. That's weird, right? If you can't bring enough pain through the genes or whatever, then do it. Because I don't want to be embarrassed. It's embarrassing to drop your pants, and you're like, well, that's weird, right? You're 15. You're like,
just be really. Well, we have to be really careful that with our kids that, I mean, this isn't abuse. This is like to change direction.
It's direction.
And so we have to.
You don't leave bruises. You're not leaving, like what I'm saying. There's a level through the genes that you bring pain. Right? I don't hit anywhere else. God gave us a little pat on the booty. They've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years, biblically speaking, in life. And so we're not doing anything new here. Once again, though, read the chapter. It has the stuff. If you're a foster parent, if you're a step parent, there are different things. Obviously, you can't spank somebody else's kids. You shouldn't even be spanking somebody else's kids. But there are ways in which you can do to bring some direction and bring some change in life. We're going to get to some questions and answers now. If you learned anything, I'll give the Lord a big hand clap.
All right, good stuff. I wanted to read the top of page 4 really quick in this lesson, which is 12. If you find yourself using isolation for behavior that you should be spanking, and you never get to the spanking process, then there is never any pain to go along to change the direction. Then you're using it wrongly, and actually it is a tool against you, the isolation. Most kids do not go and think about what they did wrong. It's just natural. They go and think about how stupid it is and how mean you are and how they hate life. You know, he mentioned that, but I've actually had people tell me that's what their parents did, send them to their room, and that was the punishment.
And it was worse for me growing up because I had a brother older and a brother younger, about a year, within three years of each, one right after another. So when we got in trouble, it was all together. The three amigos usually did something, or one of us started and the other two didn't stop it. Let's put it that way. So we were always, the three of us, in trouble. Sending us to the room was playtime because we were all together. But I do remember most every spanking. And my dad, started the restoration process before he started. He would look at you and he goes, sons, because there's three of us, he's going to do it 3 times, right? And he goes, this is going to hurt me more than it hurts you because I really don't want to do this. And we'd be crying, you don't have to do it, Dad, you don't have to do it. But then he would do it, and then we would go through the restoration process. But the correction took effect. Now, when we got older, we didn't have cell phones back in the day, but you could get grounded from events and stuff like that. So it was very effective. I don't think we were hardly spanked after those 3 or 4 early times.
Yeah, he had an amazing dad, and he became an amazing dad because of that, too. I just was thinking through the video of some things that we did for correction. Number one, we never had TVs in our kids' room. No judgment if you do, but that was just something, we didn't want to deal with that.
If you do, you can take them. I mean, like the girl lost her fashion clothes. You take the stereo. I guess it would be iPod nowadays.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We always also had them put, phones were new when our kids were growing up, and we did not let them have those in the bedroom when they were going to sleep. We'd make sure they came out into the common area. They did their charging on the bar. They did not have their phones in all night long.
Oh, they didn't sleep with the things. Yeah. Phones are not puppies. You don't sleep with them.
I said, don't sleep with the puppy either. One correction we did, which I thought was really creative, and I'm sure we heard it from somebody else. There's nothing new under the sun, right? One of our, I think it was our oldest daughter, her room was a wreck, and she needed an attitude adjustment. And so we decided privacy was a privilege, and we removed her door. And she got corrected pretty fast.
You sure that was the oldest one? I thought it was the baby we finally had to pull the door off. Oh, we did two of them. The door is important to young ladies, okay? Because that means they have to take all their stuff and go to the bathroom to change, and everybody, when you got a couple of sisters, it's a mess, right, for you to try to get ready. But the behavior changed quickly. And there was a plea, please put my door back on, Dad.
I'm sorry. And then I remembered when our oldest was like 2, we used a baby gate at her door. And that was, we didn't have any trouble. If she fell asleep on the floor, we'd just pick her up later and put her in her bed. And then Jessica at 4, she kept getting out of bed. I want water. I need to go to the bathroom. And we took her pillow. She was an easy one to correct. And she slept that night without a pillow, and never did we have that problem ever again.
She loved that pillow, though. It had that satin pillowcase on it, and it was so smooth. And yeah, the one night without her pillow, boom, she go to bed. Time to go to bed? Stay in bed. Good night. So you got to find that kryptonite with each and every one of them. Follow the discipline chart. Do the right things with skills and behaviors. You got one more?
I got two more, actually. One, instead of a ton of words, like instead of saying, what do you say, if they don't use their manners or whatever, I had a trick. I would just touch my ear. I said, this is what this means. Use your please and thank yous when I touch my ear. And that worked really good. Instead of... And then the last one is about parents can be on their phones too much. So many times in the stores I hear kids having a fit because the parent's on the phone and they're like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And it's just they want your attention. And to me, that's not a good time to be on the phone. There's rarely a good time to be on the phone when you're raising small children. To have a quiet time where they're in their room and you are doing your phone and everything.
So schedule your time. In the book, we talked about alone time, learning to be happy with themselves, whether in a playpen, whether in a room. You make that time available, and that's when you can have your phone time and do whatever you do on your phones. Yeah, but when you are being the parent, be 100% present. Okay? We don't like it when one of us is on, when we're together and we're out and about doing things, and one of us gets on the phone, because usually a daughter or somebody calls, the other one's kind of going, I'm out with you, what's going on? You don't like it when it happens to you, don't do it to your kids. Don't train them to do it to other people, more importantly. Right? Did we cover it all? So, if you don't have the material,
Come to class again.
come to class when we offer it again. And if you've been listening and you're working through the material, lwaprayer@gmail.com, right? And with that, we'll close in prayer. Father God, would you just speak a blessing over all those that are listening to this, and all those that have been through this. We pray, Father God, that they get the word of knowledge, the input that they need, that they're able to use the tools that are provided to make a great family and raise great kids that are pleasant to be around at home and when they take them out, Father God. And Lord, we just lift all this up to you and all those that are going through this in Jesus' name. Amen.